I'm here. It's live. We'll see how this goes for a minute here. Contacting the big boss. Uh-uh. Technical difficulties. We're missing a guest. I sent him the links. I don't know how many people are here. I can't tell yet. This is a new way of going live for me using this Riverside program combined with the YouTube channel. Now, what do we got? Everything's sent. Oh, I got it.
There we go.
Here.
There you go.
You're here. Can you hear me?
How you doing, Steve?
I'm beaten. That's the end of my day. I did so much shit today. Holy crap. How you making out? How you doing?
We've had some really bad storms come through here in the Midwest. It was kind of scary.
Oh no, really?
So,
are you in one of those Tornado Alley strips?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
I am.
no.
I'm waiting on an insurance company now, actually, because I had a whole bunch of damage done back in March. So it's just the way it is. Yeah.
Those things
You know what's really bad?
Have you ever seen one of those?
Just once. Yeah, it's not fun. So
No.
what really bums me out is there's an osprey. It's got a nest that I can see out from my back porch. Gone. Gone. It's got wiped out.
Maybe they'll come
I
back.
I went looking for the young to see if I could find it. The grass is too tall. So
that sucks. Nature's pretty vicious, right? Nature's a
It's
vicious
cool.
thing, man. Hey, how's my microphone? Am I too close to this thing? I noticed I made a video last night and I was a little too close to this. Am I too close?
You got a little reverb. There's a little reverb.
Is there?
Yeah. That might be better.
All right. Now, how does this thing work? Usually I've gone on YouTube live on the YouTube channel. So let me have a look at it. Shows there's 89 people here so far, I think. But I don't see where you can see people speaking on here unless I can look at it on my phone. How are you making? Have you had dinner and everything?
Yeah, I'm done. So I'm free for the evening.
Okay, good. Let me have a quick look here. Where is the channel? All right. Oh, there I am. I'm talking, and there's people talking on here. All right, I got it. I'm gonna have to watch the feed on my phone. I can see there's a whole bunch of people talking. Holy cow! All right. Anyway, where should we start? Holy shit! We had a pretty good couple chats there, or chat.
Well, I guess where do you want to leave off? I mean, wherever we left off.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of questions. We'll take some questions from everybody before we get off of here. But one thing, there's definitely somebody out there, a couple somebodies that are angry we're talking.
Oh, I know.
Isn't that weird?
I know.
You got some enemies out there?
Oh yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Right. I guess
I
you
do.
would. I guess you would with the life for gorilla people.
You know what? I don't really understand. Let's start with this. I totally get it if nobody believes me. I wouldn't believe me either. I totally get it. But I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't experience it from like none of this stuff going on. And then I watched it from increments, from the mind speak to the dreams to it went in increments, and all those crazy stuff that you hear when you're involved in the interest, let's just say, right? And you don't believe it. You just refuse to believe it. And then it starts to happen. And then, it comes, you say, okay, I heard of this happening. So one of two things happens. You either freak out and you go the other direction, or you just say, all right, let's see where this goes.
Mm.
I want to know more. The
Yeah.
whole problem, the only problem I will say, this form of communication, however it works, is very, it can be very easily what's it? You don't really know who's really speaking to you. So you
Yeah,
got to
right.
take it with it. Yeah, because one of the things I figured out in the spiritual world, it seems that this is a normal way to communicate. If you pay attention to people who have near-death experiences, they meet Jesus. Jesus never opens his mouth.
Yeah, right.
They always, yeah, I mean, it seems that is whatever plane of existence that realm kind of moves to. The verbal communication isn't necessary.
Yeah.
So
You know, even before we don't have to hear the questions yet, because once I start rattling my questions off, we're gonna really be chatting. But on side note, I've been watching, like, when I get up in the morning, I got my own little gym here and I hit it and I turn on the TV and I watch something. And I've watched a couple different people who claim to channel. Have you ever seen those people doing that? Channeling? You know about
yeah,
that?
yeah, I do. I know about that, and
I don't
you
know what
know,
to think.
well, from a biblical perspective, it's done with what they call familiar spirits. They are demonic spirits that have been watching families for generations. So they know your past because they saw your past. They knew your ancestors or your great grandmother. So when you get somebody that channels, you know, they could say, well, your grandmother was she did this and that on this particular date, and you're gonna and it might be something that she told you about. And you go, oh my gosh, that's my grandmother. So that whole mode of communication, it opens a Pandora's box. That's why people don't like it, and it is unsettling. But you know what? Here's something I probably should say too. If you watch Sean Ryan or Tucker Carlson, lately they have had a couple high-profile exorcists on, right? And
Right.
I watched that stuff, and I had to laugh because they would ask them a question, and they say, "Hey, can demons read your mind?" And they say, "No, they can't." Now, the demons can't read your mind. Maybe that's true, but these big guys, they can read your mind. They can
Without a
read
doubt.
your mind,
Yeah, I
and
think I discovered that for myself.
I have had them finish my sentences
Mm.
before I got them out of my mouth,
Mhm.
multiple occasions.
You know, it's funny. One thing that
So
always stands out in the back of my mind when I'm talking to people with you or similar people in similar positions is I keep having I've been told numerous times that they don't speak the truth. And I don't know why, but I've heard that sentence being rattled off a handful of times. So now I've got that sentence in the back of my head. You know what I mean? And I can't get rid of it.
you know what? Let me give you an example of kind of how they do it. If they will try to they will, not all of them, but like when I had this conversation with this one individual that I told you that liked to be called grandfather, right? And I asked him this question because people were running this question back then. Are you descendants of Cain? And I asked him, are you descendants of Cain? And his exact words to me were, we come from Eve as you come from Eve.
No
Now,
shit.
he didn't answer the question, but he didn't directly answer it. It wasn't a yes or no. He misdirected to a whole different. I think he was telling the truth, but he didn't answer it the way I expected him to answer it.
Hmm.
You know,
You know,
because and it wasn't uncommon for them to kind of do that stuff, but like I've said, I don't necessarily believe them, but I would file it in the back of my mind. And one of the great things about you is you have read so many people, and I've always listened. Every time you have, you put something out on YouTube, I watch it because I'm looking for patterns, and I'm looking for people who've had similar experiences to me, or they say something that really relates. I really can relate to. And you have had several of them. Not
oh yeah.
everybody, but you have had several of them. I said, okay, this person definitely had this happen.
Well, I think there's a bunch of us in that same boat. I'm doing the exact same thing you're doing, right? Exact same thing. I can't talk to enough people. And then every time you hear something, it meshes up, you put it on that shelf, right?
Yep.
And you keep listening and you keep learning. It's the only way. It's the only frickin' way. You can't argue with the patterns, you know?
And for me, people think that I proclaim I'm expert. I have never said I'm an expert. I've never said that. I'm just someone that's been just fortunate enough to experience these things over an extended period of time. And I think what it was is my buddy and I, we had our foot in the door long before this happened. So we built a rapport and a reputation amongst the community of them to the point where we weren't a threat. And so they just kind of said, okay, these guys aren't so bad. We can kind of trust them, And I think it went along. That's kind of how it went. It just took years of building a relationship. And I don't see it any different than people, regular, us forming relationships with people. There's people that are acquaintances. There's people that you are on a deep level with. And I see it no different than that. And if they trust you, one of the things I have learned, if they trust you, they'll be a little more forthcoming with stuff. The problem gets, if you break that trust, forget it. It's over. If you break trust with them, it's really hard to get it back. I can't. Oh, yeah, it's really. And they have made it clear multiple occasions that they have been betrayed by us multiple times with people that have communicated with them. And they are just really leery of it. A lot of them are leery of it because they say, well, it's typical. This is what they do. Our reputation amongst them generally is not good. Generally isn't good.
It's not good anywhere. And side note, you hear my horses are right at the window. It's not me farting my ass off, okay?
So
so you know. I got the window open right here and they're both right there hitting a round bale. They're going, and I'm like, okay, that's not me.
They need attention.
Yeah, it's funny because, and there's another example of that. There's a high profile guy. There's a guy, remember a while back, was that Dr. Igor or whatever is claiming to have one of these beings making sounds and talking on the telephone, right?
Yeah.
And then a high profile guy got a hold of me. He goes, you want to go? You want to go to Russia? I'm like, I don't know. I guess that was safe. He goes, yeah, let's go. And I go, what do you want to do? And he says, well, we'll get in there and then we'll make friends with it and we'll try to drug it and then steal some DNA. I'm like, yeah. Good luck. That ain't gonna happen.
Let me give you a story that Mary Green told me, and I'm sure there are people that know about this story. She told me that they have one that they interacted with that she called him Grumpy. That's the name she called him. And Grumpy, for some reason, had no problem showing himself to anybody. So Mary would use Grumpy to show. If people wanted to see what one of them looked like, she would go to him. And I remember she told me this. There were two people reacted two ways. They were so either mentally distraught about it ruined their lives, or they were just so fascinated, like, wow, I can't believe that's real. This is incredible. There was no in between. Now, apparently, Grumpy had a thing for Pepsis. And when she was done, she would leave him a Pepsi. She'd leave him a can of it. Well, unfortunately, when you do this with other people, if you're showing them, you're bringing them out to see this individual and you're giving them a Pepsi, what do you think is going to happen? Well, you know what happened. Somebody went out there and tried to poison him with a Pepsi.
No shit.
Yep. And she told, and this is her words. It's not my story. This is her story. This is firsthand, her telling it to me. And she said that after that incident, that was it with him. It was it. He wouldn't show himself. She could not get him to show himself to her ever again. Well, I don't know what they tried to poison him with. I don't know, but that was just the story she told me. But that's an example of kind of how it is. So once you get to kind of understand them, you kind of get protective of them. And I know that doesn't make sense, but they're actually vulnerable in a lot of ways because you don't have to hunting them and shooting them and going after them, they can deal with that. They can evade our best. I really do believe that. But if you're going to mess with their environment, depending on where they live, once again, you're gonna screw them up. What's going to stop some mental case from just he's going to save the world from the demons and light a place on fire and just call it a day.
Sounds like you happened a few times already.
And you already got these wacko climate activists that want to push an agenda that start fires in California.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm kind of careful with stuff in regards. Yeah. I'm protective of them.
There's another thing too for anybody who doesn't want to believe you or wants to call you a liar. I mean, you're not going around and doing the convention tour selling tickets, and you're not doing the podcast tour, and you're not trying to get attention.
Yeah, you know what? I will admit this, that I tried to get this information out twice before. And it went on. I was on a long distance trip coming back. I was listening to a live YouTube broadcast with somebody, I don't even remember her name, and I was on there for quite a while. And then it kind of snowballed to another guy. And once that, I actually was on the phone with him and another, and they actually know who I am. They, but because they vetted me, and I was going to do kind of what I'm doing with you now. But once he realized that, this mind speak communication was involved, stuff, the guy wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing. I mean, he just wanted, and and you know what? And that's fine. I understand it. I get it. No problem. But
isn't that amazing that somebody's actually going to dedicate X amount of time of their life to some topic, trying to come up with the answers, and they're going to get the answers, and they're going to shut them down and stay there, stagnant. They don't even know it. You're stagnant now. You're not going past go. That's where you're going to stay.
My whole motive for actually contacting you was because the way you were presenting information was really unique, and I knew it was going to snowball. And I figured, it is, I want people to understand that this is real stuff. This is not a joke. This is real. And I want people, I don't want their lives to be ruined if they encounter one. I don't want their lives to be ruined if they never encountered one and they're afraid to go into some place. I want them to have enough information where they can navigate navigate this and just go about your life. It doesn't stop me from going places. My wife comes with me and we have them. When I take her, they show up.
Yeah.
I want people to just have a normal life. And I particularly kind of have a heart for people who have to live around them all the time. Yeah. They're coming up in the backyard or they're messing around with the house and they don't know what to do about it. And they want to get out there and start shooting, which I don't recommend to do. I just want people to have enough information to you don't have to be best friends with them, but I think it's best to try to be neighborly, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of education. That's a lot of exposure to the truth, right? Which we don't really have yet. You know as well as I do how many people that thought this is just a joke, and all of a sudden it's in their face. And like you say, I mean, how do we head that off across the whole population? That's a lot of time and work and exposure and acceptance. But as unfortunate, I think at this stage of the game right now, we've got more people here, I think, that have had direct experiences or their friend has than we do just people off the street curious, accepting this is real, and they better learn so far,
Oh, I am telling you, let me tell you what happened Sunday. This happened Sunday. So I attend a small church. Everybody knows I'm the Bigfoot guy at the church, right? And my church is very accepting of this stuff. It's nothing. The supernatural isn't unusual to us. And anyway, we were kind of having a gathering afterwards, and a gentleman showed up that we kind of network with, and I'm familiar with him. And he's talking to our pastor, and he mentioned that I did this podcast with you. And the guy's so real interest. Now, we've been at his house before. We as a church have been at his house. He doesn't live too far from me. And I remember it was about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we went, it was late summer. We went in the evening. The sun was down already. I remember this. And all of us kind of came together as a group, different cars. And I turned to my wife when we pulled up there. I turned to my wife and said, "You feel it, right?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "They're here. They're actually." I was a little surprised, but I wasn't surprised. There was a forest preserve, an area put aside that he's near, right across the street. And I knew they were there. And I remember I turned to the pastor and I said, "Hey, the big guys are here. They're out there somewhere. And what they're doing, but I can feel them. So anyway, that was a couple years ago. So this same guy whose house, Sunday, I saw him Sunday. So I'm telling him all this information, trying to give him the shortened version of what I spoke with you about. And this is what he says. He says, "You know what?" He says, "I went for a walk through there the other day at dusk without my dogs." And he says, I got this, there was this overwhelmed feeling. I could sense there was like something going on here, something supernatural. He said, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And he said, I just had this idea like there were these big angels guarding the place or something. He said, I never attributed it to Bigfoot. And then he said, now I understand why my dogs go crazy over some things and I can't see what it is. They go bonkers sometimes for no reason. And I said, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, this is just every day. This is just a conversation with a guy I've known for a couple years, Well,
that's good, though. That's a good reaction for sure. The guy's got an open mind.
But this is more common. People just don't realize. And if you want to know, you have said this before many times. You ask somebody, how do you open up a conversation? And the way I always do it, particularly with hunters, I always ask this. And we said, what is the strangest experience you've ever had when you were out hunting? Mm-hmm. And then they'll think a little bit. And, if they're brave enough to tell you, they'll tell you. And it's amazing how many people have had stuff like, they don't understand the noises. They're being followed.
It's unbelievable. It's unfreaking believable how common this is, and it's not mainstream. Yep. But I got zero respect for mainstream. I get it now. I totally understand mainstream. I got no time for it. Just yesterday, Sarah and I went to the grocery store. This kind gentleman goes, "Steve," and he's like 4 people back in the lineup we're at the till, and I'm like, "Huh? Is he talking to me?" And he's looking at me. I couldn't hear correctly, and I go, "Yeah." Starts talking to me. He goes, "Yeah, I've got an experience I got to share with you." Right? This is the grocery store lineup from a stranger. And then what else? I shared this a couple weeks ago. I was at the farm up the road. Farm, like 3rd generation farmers. Great people. And they watched, all I knew is he said that his son and his grandson watch my hunting stuff. And a great guy. And every time I go up there to get hay, I talk to this farm for quite a while. And I'm not, and I know that these people are around his farm. I know they are. But I just don't bring it up. I don't bring it up. Now I don't, not really, in public. Like, I just don't go around talking about or bringing it up with people. And then all of a sudden his son showed up, starts talking to me. And we were talking for probably an hour about hunting and stuff. And then he goes, "Well, I gotta go." And he goes, I'll tell you one of my stories next time I see you. And then I'm like, "What story are you talking about?" And he goes, "Me getting roared at." I go, "One of those stories." He's like, "Yeah." And then I looked at his dad, who I've been talking to, I don't know how many times. And then he goes, "Well, yeah, I was a member of Search and Rescue. Every single Search and Rescue member here has seen him." Right? Yeah. And we've been talking for a few months and never bringing it up, right? But meanwhile, there you are. You're in the company of people who know. But I don't know how many times I've had strangers come up to me in the town, in the city, on planes. I'm on a plane going to Dallas. Somebody comes up to me. We're in Thailand and somebody come up to me.
Oh my goodness.
Right? It's all around. It's so common. But anyway, another quick question I was going to ask a minute ago was, do you know anything about retribution from them towards us?
Yes.
Let me hear it.
Okay,
all I've got so far is a native guy I met a handful of years ago. He claims that his uncle shot one of these not far from here when he was deer hunting and dumped it. And then he went back home, raced back home in the evening, and he raced back home up over the hill over here to the other side of Vancouver Island, the Parksville side. And apparently his single wide trailer, got beat in like a Coke can all night the next night, and then he offed himself.
Yeah, that's drastic. That's drastic. I know of one incident. Now, mind you, this is going back about 20 years. It was a young couple who they might be even listening at this point. I think they're divorced at this point. They had they were a young couple. They were interacting with these beings, had them on their property. And then, if I recall the story properly, the wife was able to speak with them, I think. And then she started interacting with a dog man. And like I said, I might be getting some details wrong, but what happened is it pissed off the big guys so badly that they had miniature donkeys. They had like, it wasn't, I don't know how many they had, but they had several miniature donkeys, the little ones, not the full grown burros, you know. If I recall, and I could be wrong, they killed them all. They killed all those donkeys on them for that. And if I remember correctly, that's what they did.
That's pretty harsh.
Well, yeah. And then what I learned from that was, and you know, when you bring the question back to them, not to the ones that did it, but you know, to the ones that you can talk to, they said that, you know, we're not allowed to hurt you. We're not allowed to hurt you. We're definitely not allowed to kill you. But you know what? If that is something we would do. They would do that. So they'll kill the animals. Yeah, I would not want to get on their bad side. So wow. Like when Mike the rancher, when you had that communication with, I recognized that right away with his story. They're going to kill the animals. You all right?
He's coming on here mid-June.
Yeah, it's, you know, I know his story from you, and I know it from Scott.
Right.
And all the details as much as I heard, you know, third party, whatever, but it sounded extremely similar. They got pissed off. They're not allowed to do this to you, but they're gonna make you pay. I think part of it is about to drive you off the land, to drive you out of the property, because they learned over time. They know that they kind of laugh about it. They laugh about it because they know we can't see in the dark. They see us as quite dull. They see us as having senses that are just really dull. They realize that we don't pay attention to the sounds they make or the wood knocks or nothing. They just say, you know, they know that we're creatures of habit. That's the one thing I learned about them too. They know that you're going to walk in this way. You're going to walk out that way. If you go off trail, you're going to get their attention. If you decide you're going to walk in to where they live at night and sit your ass down next to a creek, you're going to get attention. Guaranteed you're going to get attention because you're doing what's not expected of us.
Right.
And I've told people, if you want to know these guys are real, you can find out for yourself, but it's best to do it with just yourself or with one other person. What's funny about these organizations, they go out in these big groups. They pitch a bunch of tents. They're being watched, and these guys go into super stealth mode, and they're just watching. They aren't doing nothing. But you go by yourself, you're extremely vulnerable. They know it, and they know it's easy to run you out if they want to run you out.
Bigger the group, more the money.
So,
yeah.
I just tell people all the time, you want to find out, you can find out all by yourself, and you don't have to travel. You don't have to spend money to do it. You don't have to pay somebody $300 to go on an outing and fly across the country to go somewhere in some untapped virgin wilderness. Just find the nearest, large wooded area that you can find. I tell people to look for creeks and just creep in there at night by yourself. No lights, no nothing. You sit down in a clearing, in a chair, and just wait. And just wait. Let's see how long you last. I mean, that's the first thing they're going to do is try to scare you out. It's just the way it is.
I've told so many people that's if you really want to, that's what you're gonna have to do. Yeah, right.
Yep.
But it's funny when you mentioned that, that fits like a glove with my experience because I remember about, I don't know, 16 years ago or something, maybe even more. And I wasn't guiding for that fall up north, so I'm at home in Pemberton on the Lillooet River, where it's, I mean, there's so many of these people living around there. It's stupid. And I'm like, I'm gonna go find these suckers, get them on video, easy. Now I'm gonna put all my skills to doing this intentionally, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, you know, this one hidden meadow I found along the river. We used to go up there bear hunting, lots of bears. But then I started looking on the map and trying to figure out the most likely place I'm probably going to find these people. And then I started to sneak in there. And then I changed up my. I went in there and I snuck in there intentionally in my mind looking for these people. And next thing you know, I heard a three-toned call come out of the bushes about 100 yards away from me. And I had a young kid there that worked for me. It's like, bingo. And then I decided I was going to pull a fast one and I was going to park down the logging road 2 miles, hike in the forest, hit the riverbed, and sneak up the riverbed with my
Yeah.
tripod and camera and sneak in on them that way. And that's when basically I did that 2 times. They let me do that. And then they handed my ass to me. And then that was it for me. Then I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this again. Just so you know, I'm not doing this again. You know, that's the quick version of what went down over that 1 month period. But yeah, it fits like a glove with just like what you said. As soon as you start going, as soon as you start mixing it up, and then you see intent, and then they read your mind, and then it's game on. They're gonna let you know. They're gonna let
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they are absolutely. I I am amazed at them, and at the same time, I'm like I, it's almost insulting. They're as dumb as a stump, but in some ways, they're brilliant in other ways. It's just, and that's when I started to figure out their behaviors are more autistic. Like, and there's different spectrums, and I'm not an expert on this. I just did a little precursory study on autism, but most autistic people, they don't like direct communication. So they don't look at you in the eye, right? And they'll communicate indirectly. So when you do those little shell games or the feathers that you find or the rocks or the glyphs, that is an autistic trait. It's trying to communicate indirectly.
Hmm.
And then the other thing where people see them swaying, going back and forth, that's called that's sometimes in the autism world, I think they call it stemming. Is it stemming? Stemming? And it's where they're nervous. They got the energy. They don't know what to do. You know, you don't know what to do with it. So you either rock back and forth, or you sit in place, or you rub the back of your head. You know, there's various ways various autistic people deal with that kind of thing. And these guys, I think a lot of times when they're doing that swaying back and forth thing, that's an anxiety thing, and that's a coping mechanism because they're on the spectrum.
Hmm.
So that's just, I'm not an expert, but these behavior patterns seem to be that.
It could be for sure. It could be. Like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, we none of us can dictate anything. It's just throw it out there, offer it up, and put it on a shelf. Like, well, it could be. Let's wait for some other, you know, until somebody flat out tells us. Guess what? We've got this, just like some humans do, or whatever, right down the road. But yeah, there's so many confusing things for me. Like I said, sometimes my gut's kind of telling me they're looking for somebody. They're looking for somebody. You know, when they come down, they already know who's in that tent. They already know. They should already know who's in that tent. They should already know who's in that camper. Why are you coming down in the night intently, like making your presence known, coming down, circle that tent or circle that camper, and then leave in the fashion you do? That's a huge pattern. And I keep wondering, I'm wondering if they're coming to check, well, who is it? Is it just one of these simple humans or is it one of them? Do you know what I mean? It looks like they're coming to just double check on who this is. And it's typically a very large male that does that too, on average.
Well, there could be another thing at play here. So a lot of times, and I found this after I had a very similar incident as you described with me and my buddy. It was so close I could have touched him. And it all stemmed from me laughing in the dark, like I had no control. And I actually thought to myself, I wonder if I should be laughing like this. And he stalked me for half an hour. I was listening to him stalk me, coming from the side and coming behind me for a half an hour.
After laughing?
After I was laughing extremely hard, and my buddy says to me, I don't know if you should do that. And I said, I was thinking about that because he was telling me a story and we were kind of laughing. And there was a wood knock. There was one big knock to the right and one big knock to the left. And then my buddy says, now something's going to happen. And it took this individual a half an hour to stalk me. I was listening to every little thing that he broke. And I was going to sit in this chair and not move until he was on me. And one time I got out, I was like, oh, man. And I sat back down. And there was a little opening in the brush behind me. And it's night. It's dark. You can't see nothing. It's at the last minute, he comes charging out. And he comes through this brush. And I'm counting in my head when he should be upon me. I got a countdown like 5, 4, 3, 2. And just as I don't know what he was going to do. This is before we could speak with them. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but my buddy could confirm it. I'm 6'2". I jumped out of that chair over to him and I grabbed him and threw him in front of me.
What?
I did that to him. I honestly did that. And he picked up the chair and he held the chair in front of him like a lion tamer would. And all I could tell you was there was this gigantic dark mass that you couldn't really make out, but he wasn't breathing heavy. He wasn't, and my buddy was just saying, he's going, okay, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's the Chumko. It's okay. It's okay. And he just walked away. He just walked. He just not ran. He just walked. And I will never forget. I was fumbling in my pocket trying to pull out the thermal camera. I was shaking too hard to turn it on. So we stood there for a couple minutes, and I said, he went the way, we got to leave. And he said, yeah. And I said, you think we should call it a night? He says, yeah, we need to call it a night. And we left. And I think the next day when we came back, I think I brought some peace offerings. So I tell you that incident because we find out, once we're able to talk to them, find out who that individual was who did that. And he said that you were disturbing everybody with the laughter. I made you shut up, didn't I? That was his, and that was a sense of humor. And I figure they do have a sense of humor. Now I don't have a lot of experience with First Nations people. My buddy has. He tells me that their sense of humor is very similar to First Nations people. Now I don't even know what that means, but I'm just going by what he says. But anyway, one of the things that they will do, and they will bet each other sometimes. I don't know what they wager. Seen an incident like this too, where hey, I bet you I can scare them. If I get this close to them, I bet I'll scare them. And the other one says, I bet you won't. So I think, and the other thing is, you don't know what's going on in that clan. You don't know the rules of that clan. So the clan leader, and I'm guessing it's going to be the leader, he's going to come out and say, hey, look, you don't need to be the women. I know this doesn't make sense. The women and the children tend to be terrified of us. It doesn't make sense, but I'm just the ones I'm dealing with. The women seem to be terrified of us. The men, in order to project strength, they'll say, look, there's nothing to be frightened of. If they want to insult you, they call us naked little people. And they'll just, the male will just come out and just say, here, look, there's nothing to be afraid of. See, I'm walking around them. These guys can't see, they can't hear, they don't know nothing. They're just dumb. And they'll try to put the clan at ease by making a show of dominance, more or less. If that makes any sense.
So much of it doesn't make sense to me in a way. Sometimes I just get frustrated because I'm thinking, all right, here you are. There's two guys in a lawn chair. Just leave. Why even bother messing with them? Just leave. Just go away. Leave them in those lawn chairs. You know what I mean? Instead of offering yourself up and revealing yourself and giving them that attention. It's confusing to me to see them do that.
Eventually that seems to happen. What happened? And I was talking to another friend of mine who's in Washington. Just the other day, and I didn't realize how deep the rabbit hole went with him. And he told me the same thing with him is when he would do this, the same scenario. Eventually, it would get that they wouldn't investigate them as much. But what they seem to do is, and this is what they told us, well, once we realized that you weren't a threat, and we'd let the young ones come around you and hone their skills, and we would go off because we knew you weren't going to mess with them. We let the young ones mess with you.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. Okay, so if there is a threat, what is it?
Guns. They don't like guns, and they know if you got one.
Oh, 100%.
They know if you got one.
Yeah, I figured that out for myself a long time ago. You know, a lot of people say guns don't do anything to them. Yes, they do. They tell you guns do things to them all the time.
Yep.
They use mind speak, they use facial expressions, arm expressions, the whole 9 yards. They let us know that they don't like guns. And if they don't like guns, guns can do something to them, right? Without a doubt.
Yeah, if you really want to put them off, you go in with a gun. And the only time I think some people have the ability to explain to them that, look, this is not for you. But, you know, there's hogs here, there's big cats here, there's bears here. We have to, they'll understand that. But, you know, if under normal circumstances, yeah, they just don't like guns. And if they see you as a threat, forget it. I think the other thing, too, they know if you are deliberately looking for them. They definitely know that.
Yeah, they do. I figured that out. Absolutely.
But once again, not all of them have all that. Some of them are just as normal as you and I. I was my buddy and I were talking, and it's been a while, so we try to refresh, you know, and our memories and stuff about certain incidents. And sometimes he gets an individual wrong, and I correct which individual it was that said that, this, that, and the other thing. And there were two individuals that I remember. One had his mate. He said that she was not good at communicating that way, and he was constantly trying to teach her how to do that. And there was another guy that said, I got to go get my wife because she's not going to believe this. She can't hear me when I'm calling her. You know, she's reaching out to her, trying to get her to come. He says, I got to go get her. And they didn't call they never said that was their wife. They would call my woman. They always use it was my woman. So, yeah, they got a whole. I mean, it's another culture. People need to understand that. You know, I had some conversations.
Whole world, big time.
I had some conversations with Scott Nelson. People don't know who he is. You need to look him up. That guy's 100% legit with his ability to decipher languages. At the time when he was doing this stuff, there was nobody on the planet that could do what he did.
At least a military guy, ex-military guy or something.
Yes, nice guy, man. I mean, really nice guy. You know, met him. He's very well. He used to be very passionate about them in the regards he didn't want to see any of them hurt. I don't know if you realize that, but he's basically figured out their language, but he needs a word. He's figured out their how they structure it, but he needs to have a word to be able to completely interpret it.
No shit.
He needs a word.
That'd be interesting.
Yes. He needs one word.
Why couldn't you get that?
Well, you know what? I was hesitant about it at one time. I know two words, but the one I told you about was Blackfoot. There's another one I do know, but I was, because I heard it yelled out once. And when I asked them about what this word meant, it was the word that a parent would use to tell a child to get here, come over here, get here quick, come here quickly. Like if you're trying to, you know, you call a kid, say, get over here, come over here. This was a word that they used for that. And I never really told him, or maybe I did tell him, but it's been a while. It's been so long. And I remember having the discussion with my buddy. Should we tell him? Because then I was started, you know, I'm trying to be protective of them in the sense thinking, okay, well, what if people start being able to speak their language and it just disrupts them? Because I'm going to tell you, when you expose yourself to them for a long time, and let's say you just become friends with them. So we were considered part of two clans. We became maybe two clans and a family group. How about that? And once we were considered part of the clan, they started telling you all kinds of stuff. And I said, well, why are you telling us this now? Well, you weren't part of the clan. Now we could tell you, And one of the things I've learned was like, right with the languages. When they started picking up new words and using new words, and they would meet some of their own kind from different areas, they would say, where'd you get these words from? And then somebody would say, well, we've been talking to little people. And they said, what are you doing that for? So the next thing you know, you got division in the clan. The clan starts to split apart. I don't like that we're talking to these people. And the clan leader says, tough luck. These people are our friends. We're going to respect them. And the next thing, they're political just like we are. That political mambo jumbo where people take sides and stuff, that happens with them too. And then the clan splits up, and that happened to our one clan. It was two brothers that ruled this clan. And they for the sake of peace, if I remember, that was what they used. For the sake of peace, they split the clan up, and they went to another place. And then the people that wanted their own people that wanted to stay with the new clan leadership, and they stayed with the new clan leadership that wasn't so friendly towards us. This stuff, and that's probably the problem when people are interacting with them. You don't know what kind of clan you're dealing with. I remember laying this out to Scott in an email once, and he said, his reply back to me was, well, sounds like you got a pretty decent clan you're interacting with. So he even recognized there were good ones, there were bad ones, and you just don't know. And I just don't know. And like I said, you look at all the First Nations people who had interactions with them, depending on the tribes, they based their belief system on how they interacted with them. And some of them, it was violent. So they were, that's how they just perceived them. And other ones, they were friendly. It just depends. They're just like us. In that instance, they are just like us in the sense of temperament and attitudes, and you just don't know if one of them had a bad day.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know.
Hey, going back a few minutes, when you mentioned about the woman talking to them, and then she started talking to a dog man, and they got pissed off. Now, these two groups, the dog man and the Sasquatch beings, they must have been physically separate from quite a ways away, because they can't stand each other, right? So what would a dog man be doing successfully existing alongside a clan of these people in the bush, like in that woman's backyard?
Well, what's interesting about this is, like, when you first things, the disgust you get, and this may be different somewhere else, and I even asked them this. The hatred here locally that they have for them is more of what we would call racist. It's that type of hatred. They're just animals. There's nothing but animals. There's nothing good about them. They are just all completely animals. And from what I understood, where I was at, they were not common here. They were not common. They always said they were further north. Now, I always understood when we started to kind of understand how they perceive they boundaries, so to speak. They use landmarks. Like, so if you got like wherever you're at, the biggest mountain, they're going to know what that mountain is, and you can relate distance and direction from that mountain. Or if it's a coastline, or if it's a river that joins another river, if it's something prominent in the landscape, they will recognize it and they will go with it. You can learn kind of where they're at depending on if you understand where the landscape is and what stands out in the landscape. So they said that they were further north, and from a little bit of my investigation online and stuff, there are more of them up north. There are times, from what I understand, somehow or another they will form a boundary, just like any kind of territorial animal has, whether it's a wolf pack or whether it's mountain lions or whatever. They'll have a boundary, and there's like somehow or another they have an agreed thing where they don't cross and you don't cross.
I guess a hardcore canine trait right there. Wolves are the most territorial things on the planet.
I think the biggest thing that bothered me about the whole Dogman thing is like they said they can do what we can do. And I said, are they a people? Do they have names like you guys do? And they said, well, you have to ask one. They didn't even want to know. But they have to, it's the whole thing. They just hated them so much. But there's other people that say, oh, no, they're best buddies and they hang out together. There may be some rogue individuals where they do that. I don't know. There's so much that we really don't know. But I can only go by from my experiences. So if they just say we hate them, I get it. I do understand this about them. This is the one thing that's always been a big question in my mind. Those dogmen are overkill for any type of prey animal that exists on the planet. The people I talked face to face with a guy down in Texas. At the time, he was 31, and his brother and his boss found a dead dogman freshly killed in a ditch. It'd be two major cities in Texas. They were traveling. It was pre-dawn. He said he thought it was a black bear, and his boss said, "We don't have any black bears in this part of Texas." So he turned around, and he told me his brother was too scared to get out. He said this thing was laying in the ditch, and part of it was up by the shoulder of the road. He said this thing was as big as a grizzly bear. He said its fur was so black it had a bluish tinge to it. And he said, I looked. He said he picked up something to lift up the lip and look at the mouth. He said every tooth in this thing's mouth looked like a shark's tooth. He said it had a little bit of white on its chest. He said it had back legs like a dog, but it had arms. He said like Arnold Schwarzenegger and a chest like Arnold Schwarzenegger. What? And he said it had hands. He said the claws on this thing. He said they were like 3 or 4 inches long and they were sharp and hooked. And he said that, what else did he tell me? Yeah, he went into details on this thing. And when he was telling me, goosebumps rose up on his arms when he told me.
Well,
and
on your classic Dogman description, though, it's a human hair-covered body with a dog's head, just like a German Shepherd. I mean, that's a huge pattern in description.
Yeah, he said the ears. He said that too, that the ears were straight up on the top of the head, and they had tufts on it like a lynx. But he said, and when I hear these stories about them with the teeth, this is overkill for what is the biggest thing you're going to be taking down? A moose? So what are you built for like this? Why do you have this? Why do you have this armament? For what? I mean, there's no more woolly mammoths. What are you doing?
Yeah, but what the hell was that thing in the ditch? What was that?
Well, he told me that after that incident, those things him and his brother couldn't go anywhere. Those things would show up. They'd go fishing somewhere. Yeah, same phenomena.
Did it have a tail on it?
Yes. He said it looked like a husky. It went out and curled up. They had that big bow like a husky had in it.
What do they think killed it?
It had to be a vehicle. Here's the best part. He said they tried to move it. They wanted to take it. He said it was too heavy. It was just too big. So when they came back from work that day, they pulled over to where the spot was. Where was he? That's the other thing he told me. He said there was so much blood, he couldn't get over the amount of blood. He said there was so much blood that you could taste it in the air. And he said when they came back, there was no hint that it was there. It looked like it got power washed. He said it looked like somebody came out with a fire hose and power washed the whole place.
Or they went through a thin veil for a little bit there on their way through the first time.
So, and I always have this idea, and it's just my thoughts, that there's an organization in our government that takes care of these things. And how I think it works is it's relatively simple. Just John Doe is driving down through the hills of Tennessee in the middle of the night. He hits one of the big guys or hits one of these things, and it's dead on the side of the road. And he's freaking out. He doesn't know what he hit because he's looking at this thing and he's not sure. He thinks it's some type of an animal, obviously, right? It's just the uneducated masses, right? They call the police department. The police come out. They take a look and they go, yeah, we're just going to, they probably tell the guy, hey, look, this is a bear or there's an exotic animal farm here. Just call your insurance company. And then they start calling around and eventually somebody gets, hey, you got to see this, or they try to take it. And the next thing you know, the right agency gets the right call, and they come back and they threaten you, and then they take and I think that this is what happens. That's just my opinion. Because I know they get hit by cars. Some of them, they, as smart as they are, they just miscalculate. They're just like us. They do something stupid.
Sure. Do you talk to these guys in person?
This particular individual, said the one in the ditch, yes, I was face to face with him. Yeah. And he actually, his story is out there. In order to find his story, there was a guy that passed away that had a popular YouTube channel called Brent Swanson or something. He had a very popular YouTube channel. He passed away a couple years ago, and he passed away. But he did an interview with that guy, and there's a drawing and a rendition of that thing, and on one of those episodes you'd have to look for it, but it is there. And I talked face to face with him. And I had no reason not to believe him.
I'm getting honked out that my volume's low. Hold on a minute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me loud and clear?
I hear you fine, but sometimes you reverb a little bit when you move to your left. I think you sound clearer to me.
All right. Well, Sarah's in the house listening. She says I'm still a little low. Hold on a minute. Okay, I'm in the comments section, you guys. Let me know how you guys can hear me. Somebody tell me how is my it's low. Somebody says it's low. It's low. Okay, hold on a minute. Which way do I go in this damn thing? How's that? Hello? Little low. I'm turning it up. Hold on a minute here, you guys. Sorry. Hold on a minute. There's nothing on here for me to change it up. But you guys can hear me though, right? Sounds good to me. Okay. The guest is loud.
Yeah, I'm always loud.
All right, everybody says fine. Good. Moving along. Hey, when you were having all those communications with these people, what do you refer to them as? What's the name you have for them? First off.
Well, they call themselves the people.
Okay.
And you know what? I generally never said that. I never told anybody that because I'd be listening, like people like you, reading emails, and there have been a few people that have said that. They call themselves the people, and that's what they do. But I found out that that's not unusual with a lot of indigenous people around the world. It doesn't matter where you're from; they all will call themselves the people.
Right. But
it doesn't matter if you're in the Philippines with some tribe or in the Amazon with some tribe. They all seem to do that.
Yeah. So when you're communicating all those times, you're never seeing them physically when you're communicating with them on average?
Not face to face. But sometimes
they're I wonder why.
Well, I think it's one of those rules that they have where you're not supposed to show yourself. You're not. I need to say this. They know that their physical appearance distresses us. They absolutely know. So when some of these people that have these encounters, that's done deliberately. Sometimes that's done just deliberately to intimidate you or distract you, because they do that. If they got one that's kind of terrified of you and it's kind of hiding nearby, one of the big guy will usually step out, and if you aren't paying attention to all the noise, I've fallen for this, and I've known better, and I've fallen for it before too. I've had it happen a couple of times when I know better. I'm so absorbed with it that I turn my attention to that, and whoever's behind me, because they're never alone. They're just generally not alone. There's usually multiples, and there's always one behind you. There's always one behind you.
Right.
The one thing that bothers me is I don't know how something so big can make no noise when it moves. Can never understand how they could creep up on you. And there's another thing. People don't realize, they're looking for eye shine or glowing eyes or whatever, 8 feet up. Forget that. You need to be looking at the foot of the tree, because they're laying down there like a sniper. They're laying down on the ground like snipers looking at you. I had one incident, not a joke. My buddy and I, we had another guy with us that night. We were walking out, the same place we always are, walking out. We're going down the trail. And that was the only time we would use a light. We had a pen light. We wouldn't shine it around us. We'd just shine it at the ground. And so we're making this turn in this trail. And my buddy's right in front of me. He stops and I bump into him and he starts stuttering. He's going, we can't go this way. I said, well, what's wrong? He says, there's one laying in front of the trail here. He thought it was, the eyes were so far apart that he thought it was two skunks. He thought there were two skunks. And I got a glimpse of it when he got up. And what he was doing, he was laying next to the trail. And he probably did this a million times. He was laying next to the trail where we were walking on. And what he did is he had his face down. And what happened is when we were turning that corner, my buddy put the light up and he had his face up. He lifted his face up and then he put his face down so you couldn't see his eyes. Once he realized that we knew where he was there, he lifted up his face. I saw his eyes. He stood up. Now I saw his general form, but his eyes, I couldn't miss. They were glowing in the dark, but they were this pale blue, just a pale blue, like an LED. And he just walked. He didn't run. He just walked off to the left. And you know what? I don't know how many times we would have walked past that. I've got another one. This is all before we were able to talk about these, before we were able to speak with them. I used to attend a mega church, per se, let's just say that. And I had a men's group there. And I was telling these guys all these things. And they say, we want to go. We want to go. Sorry, we'll go. So I marched these guys out. There were 7 of us. The 2 guys in the back are joking around. And we go out just before dark. And it was summer. And I remember, so I got this one guy behind me. His name's Jerry. And Jerry's behind me. And we're walking down. And I hear a big branch break, just crack. And Jerry's like, I heard that. I said, yeah, they know we're here. That's just them. Let me know that they're here. The other guys goofing around in the back have no idea. So we messed around a little bit. And then we left and we went to where we had the car parked. And we got that whole distraction thing happen there, where one of them came up making a whole bunch of noise. It got my attention. We all kind of look forward, and then one comes running behind us and throws a stick at us, and then runs back. But what makes it funny is that's the kind of stuff that they do. And this was like before we could speak to them. And I lost my train of thought with that stupid story. They do that kind of stuff, and they just don't want you to see them. And so here's the follow-up to this story. A year later, one of those guys that was in the back, his name was Steven. Steven tells me, hey, I got to tell you what I saw that time. I said, you saw something? He says, yeah. When you guys, I was in the back there. And as you guys walked past, there was a tree standing there. And I went to lean on that tree to straighten out my shoe, and the tree stepped back from me. I said, what? The tree stepped back. And he said, he looked, and he said it was standing right there. And I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, I didn't think you would believe me. He said, you guys all marched past it. I had no idea it was there. I thought it was a tree.
How
often does this happen?
I always wonder how many.
Yeah, how many times does this happen?
It's me, probably. Who knows how many times for me, for sure. But that's a common one. That's another common one. I remember a couple saying they're coming home in the driveway late at night in the dark, somebody's rural driveway, and they said they didn't notice that great big pile of leaves.
Yeah.
And before that or something, and they went and visited and they came back out, and that great big huge pile of leaves is gone. Just sitting there, right? It's easy. I mean, I've done it with humans in the woods. You just make like a stump or lay down or don't move. Humans are so easy. It's stupid. Like there's nothing to hide from human beings. We're, like Jay said, we're the half asleep species or something.
Yeah, we're in their environment. They are king. I mean, there's just no question about it.
Yeah.
And people have to realize, and I don't care where anybody lives, man, I have heard stories. I'm living in, like, down in Texas. Somebody told me a story about there's a really big park in Texas, in the heart of Texas, and they're in there. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. In Dallas or Fort Worth, I don't know, but it doesn't surprise me. I'm not surprised at all at this point.
I'm gonna rattle off a handful of questions I wrote down today, just daydreaming to myself. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do we got here? If they want to send a message, why not summon? Okay, they said they wanted to send a message through you, and you'd find a way.
Yeah, that was one specific message, and he said it. He said, exact words were, "Tell your people that we are not monsters, that we are people, and we just want to live in peace."
So,
and the scary part was, I kept arguing with him. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's similar to the Old Testament story where Moses is arguing in front of the burning bush. I don't want to go to Egypt. I'm not going to Egypt. And I'm not comparing myself to Moses, and I'm not saying I'm a chosen person. I'm not saying I'm this, that, and the other thing. I'm not. I'm none of this. I just was like a guy looking for answers, searching for truth, just like anybody else. And I got stuck in the middle of this. And he said to me, "You will find a way." Well, I just thought it was just a line of crap. You will find a way. And I said, no, I'm not going to find a way. I don't have a platform, and I'm not going to tell millions of people who's going to listen. Nobody's believe me, blah, blah, blah. You will find a way. And look, here I am. I didn't plan this. You and I, as well as I do, you were trying to set up an interview with me like a year ago. And I was like, okay, whatever. I wasn't foaming at the mouth to do this.
No, you're not looking for attention. That's obvious to me anyway. No, you're not looking for attention. But the other part of my question with that question would be, not that I want to do this, but out of curiosity, well, if you were to communicate with them and say, hey, listen, I got this guy who does have a wide range of reach. Would you like to send it through him? What would they do?
If that individual is still around, there might be a possibility. So I probably should tell you how they govern themselves. This is the best way I can understand it. And I tell people all the time that it's not Native, it's not First Nations, it's more like Amish. And if people don't know how the Amish govern themselves, they're not going to understand this. The Amish people in the country govern themselves around their elders in their church. They determine the rules that they're going to live by. You have old order Amish that are they just wear the black and white stuff, and you have newer Amish, they have different rules. That like the women can wear colored dresses, but they can't wear them with patterns. So if you see an Amish woman wearing a blue dress, she's New Order. Okay, and the New Order ones can use power tools as long as they're not in the house, as long as they're in the barn, and that the Old Order, no, you can't do that. So they govern them, and who sets those rules? The elders in their church set that. So this is the same way. You have these beings living in clans. How big they are, I don't know. It might just depend on where you're at. I don't know. And the clan leader will dictate the rules that they all have to live by. And it could be something as simple as don't take food from the little people, don't talk to the little people, don't interact with the little people, don't let yourself be seen, don't let yourself be heard. If you do this, there is going to be a punishment to it. Then there is a governing body that rules over all of them. Now, I don't know if it's worldwide. I don't know if it's just, they don't know any boundaries. I don't know. This is what we got from them was there's a council of 13. For lack of a better term, I called it the Bigfoot High Council. It's just what I called it.
So you really,
and
there's that other guy. Where is he over here? That doctor, right? The guy who charges people money to come and hang at his house. And I kind of looked into him a little bit, and I got too many patterns of negative comments from people with direct contact with him. But whatever, I don't give a flying shit. But either way, he claims to have been the 12th or the 13th member of some council, doesn't he?
Well, he can claim a lot of things, but like I said, I will say this too. There are some individuals that want to just jack with you. There are some individuals that will mess with you and feed you disinformation just because they're like, we all know somebody like that. People that tell stories that we don't always believe. It's
Oh,
not
God.
it's not that yeah, it's not that they're demonic. You just have some. They'll say, you know what? I can't stand these stupid naked little people. I'm going to feed them a line of bullshit. There's some that do that.
I'd be messing
So
with humans every single day if I was one of them.
absolutely. And at the time, now this is about 20 years ago. At the time, there was a council of 13, and they were what those 12 of them were called regional chieftains. And how they divided up the regions, I don't know. I wrote that. I have names in a book somewhere, and I found out what the regional chieftain of my area is, but he doesn't live in my area. He lives about maybe I think about 100 miles north. And how big that region encompasses, I don't know. But so you have these 12 individuals that are regional chieftains. So let's say you're one of, so they govern by big rules that they all have to abide by. Don't hurt the little people. Don't kill the little people. You know, I don't know what the other rules are, but I know those are the two big rules. You don't do that. I know it's a death penalty if they kill one of us. Maybe it's a death penalty if they hurt one of us. I can't remember. But what happens is, let's say one of them, here's a real scenario from them. Two brothers get into a fight. Two brothers start fighting. They're big, you know. They're two brothers. They start wrestling. The one's a little hot-tempered. He gets angry about it. They start fighting. It gets out of hand, and the one brother, to defend himself, kills that brother. He didn't mean to do it, but it just got out of hand. So the next thing you know, he's brought before a regional chieftain for what he did, because he killed his brother. He's brought before his regional chieftain. The regional chieftain has a judgment call, brings it to all the other chieftains and the number 13, and they render a judgment. What do we do with him? You know, and they judge him based on that. And then the dissenting vote is the guy that's a head honcho. He's the number 13 guy. He breaks the tie, right? So they decide what they're gonna decide his fate. So they decided his fate, and you know, he's kind of screwed for what he did. But that's kind of how they govern. And that number 13 guy, I used to know who he was. From what I understand, he's been deposed. And the reason he's been deposed, because he was very pro-human. He was open to having open relationships with us. And he got deposed because they're political. And he got kicked out of that. And I know that he did not have a home range. He moved around a lot because he had enemies. And he supposedly was a big boy. He was like one of those 15-footers. And he got deposed. And I don't know what happened to him. It's been a while since I kind of checked on these things. But yeah, I will tell you this. I did know his name. And if any of those guys, any of the local ones I knew were messing around, if I threw his name out there, they would be begging. Don't let him know. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. We'll be good. Don't tell him.
That's a lot of detail. You're giving us a lot of detail in communicating. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of smooth communication back and forth to get all that detail.
Yes.
No, something came through. If something dangerous came through a portal, like they said, you know, there's things in through those windows that can kill us, right? So
yeah,
if something did come through a portal to our side, can we kill it? And if something comes through to the side, how does it get back in? Or do they avidly seek to get back in? You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing that's got my curiosity about this portal thing. And if there is other beings that want to come through and rip my guts out of me, can we kill the? Like, I would love to have more information on what's on the other side of that freaking window.
Okay, so this is kind of how they explained it. I mentioned to you when we did the interview, like one said, if I can open a portal, I can open a window here on this side of the creek and walk across the creek through there and end up on the other side, but it might take me longer to get there if I do it that way than just actually walking across the creek. And it's the in-between place that they said is dangerous. The void in between, between the entry and the exit, you don't know what you're going to encounter in there. And I remember I asked them what is in there. They said sometimes it's reptilians, They call those reptilians dragon people. Those are those so-called aliens with actually have advanced weaponry, believe it or not. Or you can bump into those grays, or you bump into a dogman. I don't remember them saying anything else, but specifically those things. They were always concerned about those reptilian, those dragon people. They just did not want to deal with them. And so as far as opening and closing, I had a hard time trying to understand how this went. They have the ability to manipulate energy, okay, in some way. So picture energy, being able to manipulate it and use it as like a combination lock. So you could go to an area where one of these things is fixed, where it's a fixed place, it's either opened or closed, and you can use that energy that you can generate and somehow or another open this thing up that way and go through it. And you can close them too. They're supposed to close them. They're not supposed to leave them open. I do know that. And so, and they said that when you can get, one in particular talked about going to a place, and I don't know if there's multiple places or it's one place. I don't know, where they said that the living is easy, the weather is nice, the climate is good, and there's plenty of food. But then all of a sudden there's things there that want to hunt you, and it becomes a survival issue, and so you leave. So all I pictured is like, imagine going to some place where there's still dinosaurs, right? I mean, that's all I could say. That's all I remember him saying. I didn't go into detail with that, but yeah, that's kind of how it works.
What about the, we had quite a lot of people actually have witnessed these beings with either lights going around in front of their chest, lights following them right behind their back, up the bank and up and into the forest. You know what I mean? Like, what are these little small lights about that are associated with these people?
Well, that is one question that that particular, there's two people that wrote into you that I've stuck in my mind. The one that said you saw it on the road with those orbs traveling around it, and the other guy that was from, I believe it was from Ireland, who saw it as a kid, and it made a triangle in its face, and it generated a ball of light in the triangle. It was below a tree. And I've never forgot those. I actually think I wrote them down because those are one of the two questions that I want to ask them. Now, I will tell you, this is my experience with them, with the orbs. I seen one orb in the middle of a conversation with one of these individuals. And I was with my one friend. She saw it too. It was a little blue orb, and it was floating above the trees going. And we mentioned this, that, hey, there's a blue orb, and that shut everything down. And that particular hairy folk said, stop talking. We don't need anybody listening. So there's something about these things that they're either communication devices or they're sentient spiritual beings or something. There's something alive about these things, put it this way, that have the ability to eavesdrop on conversations.
Well, I know through people that I know directly and at home here that small colored lights like red, yellow, blue, green are absolutely in relation to human spirits.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that I've seen that.
Different lights, right? Different lights. Like a one buddy of mine, his dad passed away. They're all in the hospital room. He showed me the photograph. And his dad is a professor at university, and his sisters were teachers. He's a successful builder. Dad passed. They smelt pipe smoke come in the room first, and their dad's older brother had died years ago, and he was a chronic pipe smoker. They figured he came to get him, but he said his sister said, "Oh my God, look at." And they're looking up in the corner of the hospital room, and there's a yellow, green, and blue and red faint balls of light right there in the corner room. And he whipped his iPhone out and got a picture of it and showed me.
Yeah, I the only thing in my own opinion is these are some type of spiritual entities. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whether they're deceased human beings, whether they're angelic, whether they're demonic, or whether it's both.
Yeah,
or all.
I don't think the human spirit passing is in any relation whatsoever to these balls of light that are associated with hairy people. But I'm just saying that tells me that, yep, certain balls of light can definitely represent some kind of life or spirit, without a doubt. After I learned this firsthand.
Yeah. So that is two things that I've been meaning to get to them with, and the individual it's, you know how life is, man. I've been working 2 jobs. I got all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and I don't get my wife has the ability to speak to him, but she doesn't want to speak to him.
How come?
It's just something she just doesn't. I don't think she's comfortable with it. She just doesn't, And like I said, I've always kept promises. Every promise I've made to them, I've tried to keep it. So I have limited my interaction with them to my sister, because she's my sister. Matter of fact, I've got a really good relationship with my sister now, even though there's a 12-year gap between us. And when this time was going on, when I was communicating with these guys, 20 years ago, my sister and I was not on talking terms with her. I didn't want anything to do with her. And it was one of these big guys that he more or less convinced me to open up relationship with her again.
Oh, shit.
He was adamant about it. I mean, he was really adamant. When he found out, when he realized, how we live such short lives, it made him sad. He's just sad that you guys have such short lives. So I took his advice and I kind of buried, and you know what? I'm grateful. It was good advice. It was good advice.
How does your sister carry herself daily with this topic? Is she like completely enthralled in it, or is she just whatever?
Well, you know what? She said this to me. She said, "Don't you remember when I was a kid and I said I used to see these werewolves on the side of the house where we grew up?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "You never believed me." I said, "No." She said, "Do you believe me now?" I said, "Yes."
But like, how involved is she today with the subject?
You know what? I mean, she doesn't follow it at all. But you know what? I do know that she has pursued it on her own, by herself. I know for a fact there were some. She over the past couple of years, she's gone through some difficult times, and she's found her own places where she could pull up and walk in and have a conversation with them. They will show up. See, I never told her what they called themselves. She came to me and told me. Did you know
Really?
they call themselves? Yes. Yep.
That's interesting.
And her middle daughter, who's now 27, she can talk to him too. And I used to take her out as a little girl and try and test her.
There's so many people.
Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah.
I think we already answered some of these other questions I had. When we first ended our first, what did we do? Or we came out of connection on our last interview, and you were starting to tell me about somebody at an airport sighting, and they saw down against the trees some glowing red eyes. Remember that?
Yeah, it was a golf course that was near an airport.
Yeah, we got chopped off. We didn't get the rest of that story. That's where we left off, and then all of a sudden we got disconnected for a few minutes, and we didn't pick up where we left off. But you're saying about some big airport, I think you were saying you wouldn't believe where this goes down. There's this one airport, and somebody saw the red glowing. Were they in the plane landing, I think, or something?
No. This guy now. He is in his. He's got to be in his late 30s. I used to work with him, and I don't know how I got on the subject with him. He was a little, I don't want to call him off. He was, put it this way, the other guys working around, they always thought he was a little moody. I didn't have a problem with it. And just by talking to him, he seemed to have this kind of love for nature and all this other stuff. And he used to go, that's how I found stuff out about him. He would say, I used to go out in the woods by myself all the time and just walk around and look and watch stuff as a kid. That's a signal to me that he might have been exposed to them, right? So then I would ask him, hey, what is the strangest thing you've ever seen? And he says, well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. He said he was a teenager. He was out with 2 girls, hanging out late at night, walking home from someplace, and I forgot where he lived at this point. But they cut across a golf course. Now, I don't know if the golf course was fenced in. I don't know, whatever. But it's near an airport. It's near a very large airport. And he says they're cutting across this golf course, and he sees you know how golf courses are. They got trees here and they may have a little clump of trees, whatever. And he sees somebody. He said, I saw somebody or something standing next to that tree, next to this tree. And he said, it was really high up, even though I was far away. If I was far away, he said, but it had glowing red eyes. And he stops and he's looking at this and he called the girls over and he says, hey, did you see this? And they're looking, well, of course, they're girls. They flip out, you know, they're teenage girls. You know, so he's got to go with them. But he said, I never knew what that was. And then I said, well, let me tell you what I think that was. And you know what the funny thing is after we started talking about the subject, he comes to me about 2 weeks later and he says, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I said, what? He says, you know what? Him and his girlfriend lived on this dead end street where there was a river at the end. And so and it's night and it's in the evening. It's getting dark. He's cooking some food on the grill outside and he gets this overwhelming sense he's being watched. And he said, he just looked down at the end and he says, hey, and he spoke out, you know, not in a loud voice. I know you're down there watching me. You're down there. You can't hide from me. I could tell you're there. And it spoke back to him, mind speaking. And he's told him, why don't you come out? Let me see you. He says, and the voice said to him in his head, too many. And he's going, too many? What are you talking about? Too many you. Too many. He had to decipher it. Too many people, too many of your people. And he had to decipher that. So it was going too many. It meant there's too many people around, too many of us that were in the neighborhood. He was afraid to come out and show himself. And he said, this is crazy. He said, I haven't had anything. He said, well, you know, it's probably because you were talking to me and it does something. There is something about us. Once you're exposed to them, they tag you. When you started telling me, not you when you're telling me, but through your videos and you're letting more of your story out, I knew right away you were tagged. I knew they were going to be showing up at your house. And then I just figured, you know, I don't want to drag Sarah into this, you know, but I figured there was something probably unique about her because she kind of fits the profile. The goats, the horses, the dogs, you know, she's got this love for that and she likes kids and she fits the profile. And I figured somewhere along the line, she's probably what I call gifted or sensitive in some aspect. And sure enough, and they do that. Now, I don't know how they do it, but they definitely, I think the only way you can explain this stuff is you kind of have to look at quantum mechanics and quantum physics because somehow or another they move in that realm. They somehow are able to. They have tapped into these fields of energy that we can't see.
Right.
You know, it's like that energy. Like I told you, the dog seems to know when you're coming home, and it doesn't matter where you're at. There's something going on there.
Yeah. Definitely something going on. But you know, one thing I had a thought too, another question I had, a curiosity is I wonder if there's something, whether it's the energy we produce, I don't know. Is there anything about us that they need? Like, do they actually need us to survive as a species in some weird way?
I don't think so. It's my personal feeling, my personal thought is they've been given a mandate about us. The only reason these things, it's funny. I came to the conclusion a long time ago, you're never going to prove that these guys exist unless God himself says, okay. So all the equipment all the ingenuity, everything you got, you're not going to do it. You know, it's going to be, there's going to be some decision from God that's going to decide, hey, now you're going to reveal yourself. And that is the time that I've said, I remember this individual grandfather spoke of this. And I mentioned in one email, his exact words were this. He said, we have prophets among us and we dream dreams, and dreams are very important to our people, which I figured that one out. And he said, some of us see something like a great mountain on fire crashing into the earth. We don't know what this is. And I said to him, well, what you have described is probably a meteor. And I said, or an asteroid. And I said, that's something that comes from space. Or yeah. And he said, Now, this is where I don't necessarily believe it. All right. He said that he says we can't save all of your people, but we'll try to save some. We'll save who we can.
Really?
We can't save. Yeah, that was his exact words.
That's interesting.
And yes, that's it was almost terrifying, but he might be misinterpreting something. I don't know, but I did find that to be rather interesting.
Another thing too, I was wondering, they must know that we war. They got to. Obviously, in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, the beings, they know we war. They have to know we war. I wonder they think
they war too. They do too.
Yeah.
They fight each other too. They have clan disputes.
Wouldn't that be going for a little mountain bike ride, come around the corner as a bunch of 10-foot tall, hairy, naked dudes beating the shit out of each other?
Mary Green told me that she was caught in the middle of one of those once because she was bringing them. Yeah, she was bringing them food, and the group she was bringing food. I think now it could be wrong. I'm somebody listening knows this story better than me, honestly. But she was bringing them food, and they would bring the food to a certain spot, and eventually there became a war over that, and one group pushed the other group out, and she said they heard it. They would hear it. It was just horrible fighting. Yeah. And they will use tools in a sense. They'll grab branches, and I know they can make spears. How crude it is, I don't know. I know they will use that for fishing if they feel a need to do that.
Well, I've seen firsthand where they stripped off strips of probably 1.5 to 2 inch wide strips of bark off a cedar tree up to 14 feet up and just took them. They took them for something.
They use it as bedding. That's bedding. Moss, leaves, cedar bark. They use it as bedding, and then they change it out.
Another thing too, when you, I'm just going to keep on blasting off the thoughts I've had today. I've already read enough of mine on my notes that I have written down. But when the feeling of the pressure and feeling that presence, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and because I can feel it, and do you think let's just say you jumped off a plane in British Columbia and I took you up the road, and all of a sudden you'd be able to feel it?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
No matter where you are.
What's strange about it is I think in order to feel that, you have to be tagged, because I was dealing with them for years and never felt that. Okay. Until I meet the one individual. I meet him. My life was changed because of him, to be honest with you. After that one encounter I told you about where he pushed my friend's mind to the side, two things happened. I had the ability to sense them, the ability to feel that pressure. And he also, I was suffering with plantar fasciitis in my right foot for like 3 years. The next morning when I got out of bed, I stepped out of bed and it was gone. I mean, gone. It didn't exist anymore. I never had it since. I can't tell you how much money I spent at a podiatrist for this. And I went back to him and said, "Did you do this?" And he said, "Yes." How do you do that? But you know what? I forgot to mention during that encounter, and I've had this with other individuals, not all of them, but with other individuals. There is something that when you're standing near them or by them or in their vicinity, your body vibrates. You shake uncontrollably. It's like something going through you that you can't, it's involuntary shaking. You can't stop it. Your whole body vibrates. And I've had some with that individual, yes, and a few others. But after that, yeah, and there's the power that was coming from some of these individuals, it would resonate from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, and your body would vibrate. And then if it was too much, you would say, "Hey, it's a little strong. Can you turn it down a little bit? Can you not so hard, not so hard?" You try to find a word to make it work, and you would just say it out loud, and it's like they would turn the volume down. But I experienced this to this day. So what happens is, since I can sense them, I don't sense them locally much. And in my roundabout routine, where I go, even where I know where they're at, I generally don't sense them anymore. I think it's a familiarity thing for them. I think part of it is them reaching out. They're trying to figure out who you are. Actually, I know that is because I have traveled. I had an incident. It was about a year ago. It was last May. I was in the lower peninsula of Michigan, up by the Manistee National Forest, I think it's called. I was up there, coming through there at night, and I was what I would call lit up like a Christmas tree with them. And I was like, I actually had to pull over. I pulled over when I found a spot, and I pulled over. I got out, and I just waited a few minutes, and I spoke out to the forest, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm just traveling through. I don't mean you any harm." And I would say, I know your people know me. I'd introduce myself with the name they gave me, and then it would stop, just like that. And I had one incident like that once when it was late at night. I was, both crazy things. I was going to a funeral. And I remember where I was, and I was getting off the exit, and it was a wooded area, and there was a name that started going through my head. I can't even remember this one's name. And I was like, really? Here? And it was a name, and I'm driving. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy. Look, I don't blame anybody who thinks I'm lying. I'm not lying, but it's my experience. But so he's telling me his name. I get his name, and I tell him, he said, I forgot what he wanted. He wanted to meet my sister. He wanted to meet my sister. I remember that now. He wanted to meet my sister. And because unbeknownst to me, my sister was going to this area. Like I told you, she'd find a place to park. I didn't know she was going to this particular area. And I thought it was odd, but I said, okay, I'll let her know. And my sister went out there and did whatever she had to do. And he was a leader for this clan that's over there, wherever that, in this particular area. So yeah, that is a real phenomenon. I could go anywhere and pick up on them. It doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah, I learned that on my own way before I was even on the internet. I learned that one, but I'd already had, already seen that dude looking at me, and I already been in a cabin with the wall getting bashed and a couple of the minor things, but it wasn't really, my mind wasn't engulfed in the topic at all, but I was aware nonstop. And I was probably 1998 or 9 or something, and I was coming back from northern BC after guide season, and I had a whole pile of moose meat in the back of the pickup, my saddles and shit, and I was going to drive to the Nanaimo ferry instead of going all the way down the Canada Highway to Vancouver through the Fraser River. And I decided to take a right-hand turn. I'm going to try to take this route, which took me through the Duffy Lake Highway and through Pemberton, where I ended up living for years after that. But anyway, I'll never forget it. And this is before the internet, and I'm not talking to anybody that's familiar with this topic at all. It's just me on my own, being aware and learning as I go. And I'll never forget it. I know exactly where I was on that highway. Then you stop in Lillooet, got gas, got a snack, started steep up the hill in the Duffy. And then all of a sudden, it's just like you get hit with a wave. It's like, whoa. I was exactly like this. You're like, oh, holy shit, they're here. They are here, without a doubt. They are here. It. Just like that. And I'm getting goosebumps right now, remembering that moment. But I've been aware of that feeling for a long time now. Like, it's obvious to me now. I just know where they are. I can feel it.
I think it's only tagged people. Because like I said, I was interacting with them for years and never had that before. But I think whatever they do, then they all know. They all know. You're broadcasting like a light bulb no matter where you go. So that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah, well, I've had whatever's been reaching out to me has been reaching out to me from one end of this province to the other so far,
Yeah, that's and see, here's what I think it is. They did tell me this. They said we seek. All right, so this is important. This is just kind of what I figured out. They said that we seek your people who can see and hear, meaning have the ability to see within the spirit realm or hear within the spirit realm, whatever that is. You call it psychic. I call it prophetic. I call it gifted. There's a lot of Christians that think it's wicked and they think it's evil and it's demonic, but it's just what's called prophetic. There's a verse in Ephesians in the New Testament that talks about the church was given evangelists, teachers, prophets, and apostles, and it's called the fivefold ministry. And the fivefold ministry has prophets in it. And most institutionalized churches don't believe in prophets. It's not prophets like Moses was a prophet. It means people get what's called words of knowledge, understanding things about that are usually that you have no idea knowing about. And these guys seem to work in that. They work in that prophetic realm. And I think that is part of it. So he said that we seek people who can see and hear. We seek your people out. And what I think they do is it's like what happened to my friend. They pick up on somebody when they're little and they follow them if they're in a proper environment, of course, and they seem to they seem to appoint some of them or one or two of them to keep an eye on you. And they kind of watch you through your whole life. And somewhere along the line, they try to make contact for whatever reason. And the reason I think that this kind of all blew up in our faces with me and my friends was because it was the Ketchum thing that was going on. The DNA study was going on. And I think they were freaking out because I think they believed that the time of the knowing, they had this prophecy called the time of the knowing. And the time of the knowing was a big revealing. Was the revealing of not just their existence, but everything else's existence. All the stuff that we're not supposed to know about. And they said that's going to be a very difficult time for our people because we're not going to handle it well. And I think they were afraid. They somehow or another down, the whatever, the coconut telegraph or whatever the heck you want to call it, that psychic hotline or whatever, the ether, whatever it is, they found out they knew about this was coming and they were very worried about this. They were very concerned about how it was going to disrupt their lives. And I think that they reached out thinking, okay, let's get ahead of this. And for some reason, that individual said, hey, but you could tell your people we're not monsters and everything will be okay. Now, I can't convince anybody of anything.
Yeah. I wonder if they know why, if they even have an idea, if they're even concerned about the reason why us window lickers are kept in the dark about everything.
I had a little conversation about that. When they mentioned the star people and their relationship to them, not good. They at least the ones here, they didn't want nothing to do with them. They said, we get abducted, our women disappear. We don't like it when they show up. When they show up, we disappear. We try to hide. We don't want nothing to do with them. And this one individual said they suspected that our leaders are working with them.
Yeah.
They said that. They said, we think that your leaders are working with them. And I'm saying, look, I don't know if they are or not. That's not for me to decide. I don't know. And they seem to be very kind of upset about it. I mean, they're curious about how we live too. Trust me. They're looking at our windows. They look at stuff. They sometimes wonder. I have one that was scoping me out, and I had a 125-gallon fish tank in my living room, and I never had the drapes or the blinds drawn or whatever. And I would leave that light on like for a week at a time before I turned. I didn't turn it off at night. He was pissed. He said, why do you do that? He knew that I had fish in there. He knew I kept fish in there. But he said, everything has to rest. Take the light off of them. Yeah, it's stuff like
Crazy.
that, Yeah, it is crazy.
Get on here on the, how long? We've been here a little while. I better see if there's any revolting going on in the chat section here. And without I'm not hitting any questions from anybody here yet. And we'll see what we got. All right. We go back in the live chat feed. What do we got? I'm not standing out. Everybody's
I
just
think we blotted out for a moment, but we're reconnected again.
Who you are?
Yeah, it won't. Okay, yeah, the feed got kind of bad and you got blurry, but it reconnected and you look good now.
We're good. Why do they say they understand the rules of the creator? How? Why do they say they understand the rules of the creator? How? Well, I don't know.
Well, I don't. I just think that they seem to understand these. All right, so I'm going to get a little theological for people who aren't theological here. All right, there's a biblical verse that says, where God says, "Seek. If you seek me with all your heart, you will find me." There's another one that says, "Draw close to me, and I will draw close to you." And that's an interesting verse. You have an all-powerful, all omnipotent creator that makes all things, and he sits back and he doesn't decide to reach out to you. He waits for you to reach out to him.
Right.
This is a I don't know what the spiritual laws are, but I know that is one. And the whole spiritual world works on this. If you decide that you want money, fame, fortune, and you decide you want to contact the devil, guess what? He's going to show up.
Oh yeah. Big time.
He's going to show up. And if you decide that you want to get on a Ouija board and play around with a Ouija board and contact something, you're making the first move for contact. Your first contact. It's your choice to contact that. So these big guys are hanging out in the peripheral, and they aren't going to mess with you. But when you decide that you're going to reach out to them, and Scott Carpenter discovered that too, they will follow you home because you have reached out to them. You went to them. You know they were there. You were trying to communicate, even in an indirect way, which allows them to say, okay, I can come over and do the same thing to you. So as far as the spiritual law goes, they know that one.
Right.
Now, what the other ones are, I don't know, but I'm guessing they probably do.
Yeah. Steve, please ask about the spider walking on their fingertips. Yeah, that's a creepy move.
They're strong.
Ridiculous strong.
They're ridiculously strong.
I think that's just like a commando. That's a commando move. That's.
You don't think if we could do that, we wouldn't do that when we're out in the battlefield?
Yeah.
If we could do that physically, we'd do that too. They're strong.
Oh, for sure. If I could pull that off, and with my hunting, I'd love to be able to do that. I'd do that all the time if I could hunting for sure.
I don't know if I sent you this picture or not. I've got a picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. They took. I don't know if you're familiar with Japanese honeysuckle. It's a bush. It's an invasive bush. It has destroyed most of our woodlands here.
No,
in the
that sucks.
understory. Yeah, it gets thick. It gets woody. It gets tall. So picture something about it's woody and it's about the thickness of your thumb. I found one of these things in a spot where they were at, where they took a branch like that and tied it into a knot, a tight knot. So they just twisted it up and tied it into a knot. A tight knot. I mean, when I found this, I couldn't believe it. They're just ridiculously strong. So they can get down and they can spider walk on their hands and knees. I mean, it's...
man. Those 4 logs that they put up against that fir tree where I hunt, you must have seen that in my videos.
Yeah,
freaking huge. You can only do that with a backhoe.
And like you said, and it's like you said, you heard them swinging a tree through the air, hitting a.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ridiculously strong.
Yeah. Hey, what's another thing too? Do you know anything about those TP things they make in the timber, or is it even them that make those?
Yeah, and you know what? I fell asleep with that lesson. You know what? Those things never interested me, but I do know some of it is artistic. Some of it has artistic things to it. Some of them are trail markers, meant to direct some of their own kind. Like if you got some strangers that some of their own kind that are visiting. And like I said, not all of them can sense and do all the things. Some of them are just as simple as we are. And if there's some moving through, they know how to read these signs. And the trail might point, this is the way you come. Does it go this way or that way? So some of that is that.
Yeah.
Some of them are more significant meanings, but honestly, truth be told, I really didn't care.
Yeah. Actually, me neither. I don't know why. I just don't.
Some of those groups, yeah, some of the glyphs they make will be triangles, and some of that is Nordic.
Oh yeah.
Some
Okay.
of it's Nordic. Yep.
I've got a few people asking about using a fire.
They use fire, but
Really?
only yes, but it's only used ceremonial. Their exact words were, "It is dangerous and it can get out of hand." So they limit. The only ones that are allowed to use it are it's either their chieftain, either their clan leader, or their medicine, which is usually sometimes is the same guy. And I asked them how they start it. That energy that they can funnel, that's how they can start it. I do know that they use it with they typically say that they make them very small. The
Right.
fires will be very small. And if you pay attention to Dave Politis, he mentioned one time that when he was his father, they came across a very, very small fire in the middle of nowhere where they were fishing somewhere. There was nobody around, but it was a very small fire. But yeah, I know they use them in funerals. When they have a funeral or they're trying to honor somebody, they will use this. And they also use them to make, if they need to make some type of medicine out of plants, they'll use the fire for that too.
Crazy. How about, did you ever get did anybody ever say exactly how long they live?
I have been told by other people how long, but that's just third party information from other people. Yeah. I have been told that they can live a couple hundred years. But I go by the one individual's grandfather that we knew when he said that when the trains came through this particular town, and the railway came through this particular town that he lived in when he was a boy. He must have been a boy, I'm guessing. It was 1858. And so here it is, 2010 or 2011, and he's still around. Well, damn, he's pretty old. I mean, if the experts say they don't make it past 50, that's nonsense.
I wonder what.
But to make it even more interesting,
this is my thought. I always wonder, like, the quality of life must suck ass. Like I've had a few people describe them saying how they've got an absolute clear view of their face, saying they just look weathered, worn, and tired. We might have lost you. He's out. He should be coming back in, you guys. It's quite the conversation, isn't it? Quite the conversation, especially for, imagine somebody coming on here and not having a clue about this topic at all and listening to us two talking about this. It's a lot. We'll see if he comes back on. He might have, I'll bet he lost juice out of his phone, I'll bet. Lots of questions here, that's for sure. The red ones I can answer. Like the ones with red eyes, are they evil? No, apparently it's the mood. Like they got pale blue, the friendly guy. Apparently a lot of people have said that quite a few times. You just watch out for the ones with the red eyes. I think it probably boils down to somebody's absolutely pissed over there is what that more than likely is. From my understanding over the years. My understanding. Red eyes means you better pay attention, I have a funny feeling. Somebody commented here and said, Steve/Owlman, when Sabe rocks from side to side, they are channeling you. They're also able to view your Akashic record for your current life, not soul. They identify you by your frequency. That's interesting. I could see that fitting. I could see that being a puzzle piece fitting. How many clowns? Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Sounds like there's a handful, doesn't there? The marble. Somebody asked marbles. That's sort of like too. There's I think a few people. Somebody started the marble thing. I don't know. I mean, a handful of people have seen marbles coming out of nowhere. I'd imagine that's valid. but I have a funny feeling that some other people may have copied that as well, maybe. You know what I mean? Some people just need to have something to present as something that's happening to them, and they copied that from someone else who originally had it happen, maybe. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a freaking clue. So many questions. I think one thing that we should probably all be able to agree upon by now is there is definitely you're showing your face. Owl man, you're showing your face. There you go.
Yeah,
There?
I'm sorry, Steve. I don't know what happened.
That's all right.
What was the-
You weren't clear. We just got an eyeball and a bunch of fuzziness. That's it. Well, we've been
Well,
going
it's all
down.
right. What was that? You asked me a question. I had an answer too, and I forgot.
Oh shit! I don't know. I've been asking a bunch of questions while you were gone. One person commented and said, "Steve Almet, when Sabe rocks from side to side, they are channeling you. They are also able to view your Akashic record for your current life, not soul. They identify you by your frequency." I don't know.
I don't know, man. To me, it's an autistic behavior.
Okay.
I've seen. You know what? I mean, I've seen birds do this, man. I used to raise parrots for years, and they'll do that whole thing, and they're eyeing you up, and their pupils moving in and out, and they're just gauging distance. It could be anything. But
Bears,
I don't know.
Bears do the same shit.
Yeah.
How many clans know Steve? There's
a good question. I would lay money on any of the places that you haunt on a regular basis. They all know you. And
oh yeah, where I hunt, absolutely.
Every place that you put your foot on a regular basis, they know you, and all the ones in the surrounding areas where you haven't touched your foot probably know you.
Yeah. Like I wonder if I'm down in Texas, if they would have any inkling on my frequency. Maybe, I don't know.
They might recognize. They would recognize that you have a mark on you. They would recognize that you've been tagged. That doesn't mean they know who you are, but they would recognize that you've been tagged by somebody, and that might actually be very specific to the point where they might know the general area that you come from.
Right. Actually, you know what? There's not a doubt. I've sensed that for myself. Once we've heard that a few times. Once they know, they all know.
They all know.
But I think
yeah,
that goes to us too. Once we know, then we know that they know too. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I'm running around in Alabama, I'm always looking around like, all right, I know you're probably here too. In my mind, actually, I know they're there. I felt them and I heard a big branch snap in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
2 years ago down there. No big deal. Doesn't freak me out. They know. Are the Watchers and Anunnaki the same group of sky people?
You know what? They know what the word Watchers means. They know what that means. I tell you this too. They also know some Hebrew. At least a couple of them that I know.
Really?
They know some Hebrew words. Yeah. 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 I remember the one individual said, "How do you know these words? These are the words my grandfather taught me. How do you know them?" I said, "We have them written down in some old books." Yeah, they do know some. They do know some things.
Right. Steve, do they use trees as a method of traveling, like a portal entering into them?
To my knowledge, no. None of that. I've heard that stuff before, but and like I said, I don't know what anybody else's experience is with them, and I don't always know what to believe from somebody else. But as far as mine understand, look, these guys here, they eat things. They don't suck energy out of trees. They kill deer. Man, I found some of their cache in the winter. They like to put the deer under the ice.
Really?
Yeah, they'll kill them. And you know what? I found out recently that that's what ancient people used to do. A lot of ancient hunters and gatherers would cache them into cold water. I just recently found this out, but yeah. My friend found one of those. I've seen pictures of that where they put them under the ice. But I could tell you this, they can eat acorns. We can't. They can eat them raw.
Oh, they can eat some nasty shit.
Yeah, they can eat them. That's what makes them extremely adaptable. They can eat anything. You know, and
Absolute.
oh,
Ugh.
that was the question. They look weathered. It's a hard life.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking about the quality of life. It's got to suck in a way, right? I mean, you look at how many human fugitives, when they finally get caught, they're like, "Oh, thank God it's over." You know, I'm being exhausted from
He-
trying to
he-
hide all the time.
this one grandfather, he said that. He said it's not an easy life. He hurt himself. Him and one of his sons was moving around some piece of concrete or something. He dropped the piece of concrete on his foot. He was jacked up from that, and he never fully it was an injury. And you know what? They step on fish hooks, when they're in the rivers and stuff, and then they're pissed off, and you never know what experiences they had. And that's one of the reasons they'll get angry at us. Man, I was in one place where they were just pissed off. You know why? There's condoms on the brush. People going in the woods and they're leaving spent condoms laying around, and these guys were pissed off.
Oh, there's a lot of shit getting thrown in the woods.
Yeah.
A lot of shit. What's this? A question for the owl man. I'm seeing other small creatures right in with the forest people. Some are so weird, very small, like small iguana or maybe rabbit-like head in trees, odd-looking things.
You know what? I never really asked them too much. I am told that the little people are real. I don't know much about it. I really didn't spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard the little people are real too, and they're not good.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that has seen them in Washington. My buddy in Oklahoma has had a friend that saw one that was like Barbie doll sized. He was working in a garage on his car as a teenager, and it's night, and he's got the light in the garage, and he's laying on the ground underneath the car, and he looks, and there's somebody like a Barbie sized doll. Now we're just not doing good today with the connections. Ugh. What is going on here? I don't know what is going on here.
You back?
Yeah, I'm back.
I lost the internet. Sarah just texted me that she lost the internet too.
Maybe somebody doesn't want us talking. Wouldn't put past me.
There's a question for me because I haven't had I've had a few stalkers over the years, and I've had a few other groups and individuals well known trying to come after me, and then that all petered away quite a while ago. But since we just started talking, a couple have flashed up again, making fake profiles. But I wonder, have you had any pushback lately from anybody or any usual suspects that want you to?
Well, I've kept a low profile, but back in the day, there was funny business particularly with my friends. My two friends that I was with all the time doing this stuff. Yeah, they were getting followed and everything.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
somebody's pissed off. We're talking.
It doesn't surprise me.
Whatever. They're pussies. I know they're
The
listening.
reason I think that the reason I think they let it go for so long is because it sounds so ridiculous. Who's going to believe it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure the baddies are listening to they're listening to a handful of channels, I'm sure, just to see how far everybody's getting, how close. Without
You
a
know,
doubt.
it's, hey, they are what they are. They're there, and you know, you've handled it very well, and you've already figured out some stuff that nobody knew anyways. You're just confirming. You're confirming some of the things I'm telling you. So, you know, you know, there's truth to this. This is not nonsense. It's not
Oh,
fantasy. This is true stuff. This is real
yeah.
stuff.
No, I'm past all that. Like I said, like when you offered up to have somebody come on here and verify, I'm like, oh shit, nobody gets on trial here. No way. We know what's up, and anybody who challenges now or needs me to answer there's something further now, there's a speed bump. You're a speed bump to me. Get out of my way. You can catch up. The door's wide open, but you're just a speed bump now. Yeah, no, this is absolutely going down without a doubt. It's just filling in these damn puzzles. It's frustrating, but it's interesting. Obviously it's interesting. It's not a hard thing for me to do. I like doing it. It's nothing has translated to being alarming for me with this topic as alarming has been coming to light with other topics going on in society today. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm not getting cold sweats from the knowledge I'm gaining on these people. I'm not up in the night going, holy shit, oh my God, no way. I wish that, never. I am with a lot of other topics that are coming to light with dealing with children and animals.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's some things that are coming to light where you just wish it wasn't true. God,
absolutely. Yeah.
no, please not be true, but it is. But I'm just saying, I'm not having any of those reactions with this topic.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, that's because it stays in the realm of ridicule. And as long as it stays in the realm of ridicule, it's the best way to control people. And you were absolutely right. People don't like to be ridiculed, so they will stay silent. I could care less. I had a friend of mine once tell me what other people think about me is none of my business. And I don't care. And the thing is ridicule is a very powerful way to control people. And that's what they do.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that crazy how we're built that way? It's so amazing to me. Human beings are so amazing to me. Just watching humans bumble through this lifetime and all the characteristics are just so bizarre. Aren't they?
Yeah, it's
so bizarre.
Yeah, you have called it out a million times. We're weak. As far as the only thing we have going for us is our brain. If I've never believed in evolution. The only reason I don't believe in evolution is because there is no way that we could have survived. I don't care how smart we are. The predators that were around us were well beyond anything we could have dealt with.
Yeah.
We've been taken out. I mean, you know as well as I do that some of the prevailing thoughts why there was no human beings living in this hemisphere is because of one type of bear. The short-faced bear. They say the short-faced bear was killing anybody that came across the Bering Strait. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But yeah, we're smart, but man, it's physically, forget it. We're a joke. We're just a joke. We can't compete.
No, it wouldn't matter what time period it was back in the day if it was evolution. It doesn't matter the predator. Even right now, any black bear decides to, it's just going to come and kill you and eat you.
Yeah, it's over.
So you go back in the day, and a bear has a hankering for human beings. He's not going to stop. They're not going to stop eating you. Yeah, but anyways, that's another topic, I guess. But anyway, I guess we should probably bail out of here. We haven't had dinner yet, and I'm probably going to get in trouble if I don't pack this in pretty quick. But I think we answered a whole pile of questions. I think a lot of people were doing a lot more listening than asking questions. Question for Owlman: can they cure cancer?
I have heard they can, but that's hearsay. I've heard that from other people. I've heard that from other people.
I think we can. Myself.
Yeah, I've heard that, but whether it's true or not, I know they can. I know they can manage chronic pain in somebody. They can help you deal with chronic pain, and I can testify about my foot. And And I do know that I don't know. I wish I knew how they did it. I do know that infections, bacterial infections, and stuff like that, they're just as prone to that stupid stuff as we are. But I think they have an immune system that's beyond our understanding to deal with the stuff they do.
Well, we had another group of friends here that I absolutely trust, the Arizona Four, and one of those guys, they got healed.
Yeah.
They got healed.
I think that might be another reason. Could you imagine if that was common knowledge, all the people that would be flooding forests? Can you imagine that?
Holy cow. You know what? Yeah, or if they could actually, if the dirt bags got a hold of some of these people that could do that, you know exactly what they do right away. They use it for the dark side to keep the dark side living longer than us. That's it. Only the elite, right?
Yep. Wouldn't surprise me.
Only the elite, not the peasants. We can breed peasants. We can just keep breeding peasants and keep the slave force going.
Yep.
I think that's probably, I mean, I think we talked about a lot of the interesting questions that a lot of us would have, meaning the people that know this is going down. Yeah. All right. What do you think? Should we call this one a night?
Hey, you're the master of ceremonies, not me.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm hungry, man, and I gotta go eat. And we've been on here over 2 hours, but obviously we can do it again one day if you're up to it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think it's important people do understand that you're dealing with a type of people. I mean, regardless, it was Scott Nelson that basically said this. It's his phrase, not mine. He says, they have a language, and if you have a language, you have culture, and if you have culture, you have a belief system, and they got all of that. They have all of that, and I think it's best. You know, I want people to realize that they're there, they're out there. You've probably walked past one, didn't know about it. Don't let it mess up your life. Go about your business. If you're nervous going into a place where you know they're at, just speak to them and say, look, just like you do, Steve, I'm here to hunt. I'm here to get my food, just like you do. I'm not going to disrupt anything. I'm not going to ruin your day. I just leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. If they chase you out, then they got a reason for it. You don't always know what it is. They may have little ones that are scared just because you're there, and the parents go, well, all right, we'll just go chase them out. And, you know, you just never know, you know, or they might be fighting with another group, or they might be dealing with dogmen down the street. You just don't know. Or maybe we could talk about that one day, or you might just be dealing with the criminal ones. You don't want to deal with them. They suck.
When do you think you would be pursuing communicating with them again next?
I can give my sister a ring. We've been talking about it a lot lately.
Because, you know, when that one a while back said, you'll find a way, you will find a way. Well, he was right. You found a way, right?
You found a way.
But I wonder
if you have something you want me to specifically ask, I'll try to see. It's hard for my sister to get away on the weekends, but we'll figure something out.
Do they want to talk to me?
I'll see what happens. I'll see what we can work out.
I mean, I'm not asking to talk to them. I'm just saying, do they want to talk to me? And if the answer is yes, then it just gives me something to think about.
Well, there's the ones that are probably near you. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if the ones by you probably do. And I'm gonna throw this out there. It's just something I think that and if they're gonna do it, they would probably do it through Sarah. But she has to be willing. If it's not her, maybe one of your, First Nations friends might be able to facilitate it, because I'm telling you, a bunch of them probably can, but they might not want to, because with whatever, how they feel about them, that might be considered taboo. So, but as far as the ones down here, maybe they know about you. Maybe they don't. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe they got a name for you. I don't know. Maybe I can find out. I think they probably don't have a clue who we are, but maybe I could save a picture.
Yeah, they know. But I mean, I've been reading these emails from people out in the woods around these people for years.
Yeah.
They know. But especially up north, for some weird reason, they really give me a lot of attention up north where I hunt in the fall. And Sarah's the one getting a lot of attention down south here. So
it's slow walking. They're trying what they want to do. And I think this is what they probably want to do. They don't want you to be afraid. So they're trying to approach you in a way that you're not going to flip out. So they're trying to do it in increments. And I wouldn't be surprised if the dreams come. I've never had a violent dream about them being violent. They were always introductions. And it wouldn't be surprised if she gets one of these, and particularly after this, it wouldn't surprise me if you get one or she gets one, and you just don't know how that's gonna go. It probably will go that way, and then just pay attention to thoughts. Pay attention to thoughts that aren't your thoughts. Pay attention to crazy names that you get for no reason. And you're going, "What is this?" So.
I know last fall, Sarah was up there with me for a little while, and then she goes home, and then I go back by myself. And I went to this place on the south side of the Peace River where I've had a bunch of things go down. And another guy emailed me. He had some stuff go down within 1 mile of where I was in this particular big patch of forest. And I was moving along, and I know how to hunt. And there's fresh sign from the elk. I'm looking for elk. There's fresh sign everywhere, and it was not. I mean, it was like the forest was dead. I'm not hearing nothing, and then I could just feel it. I'm like, okay, I already know I'm not going to see anything now. I know I'm not.
Yeah.
And I go through that timber, and then I got out of there, and I drove out the logging road, and I went up the highway. It's a remote highway. I went up the highway to go check another spot. Came back, saw a couple of cow elk there. Oh, so I pulled back into that logging road, and I was gonna go. I pulled up the logging road. I had a trailer behind my truck with my quad on it. And I turned the truck around to come back down to that road to look up the power line cut where those elk were. And then I was going to pull up and then back in behind me. And there's one small patch of trees next to the highway. So it was like the highway and a small power line cut beside it. And there's one small patch of trees. And I guess what happened was, well, I know what happened. I looked like I drove in again to where I was spending the day hunting, and I could feel the pressure. I knew I wasn't going to see nothing, because somebody was there with me. And then when I went to pull out, it would have looked like I was pulling back out on the highway to leave. But then I slammed it in reverse and backed up into the power line. When I did that, I looked over my shoulder, and I just caught him trying to duck down. And I mean fast. Brown went from that patch of trees, scooting straight through the grass behind me and back up into the main timber again. I'm like, ha, got ya. I mean, I wasn't like that, but I was like, whoa. I looked back, and it's just like this. Whoa, holy. Like that quick, you know what I mean? But
because you did what wasn't expected. That's the thing. Like walking that trail, and you turn the other direction. Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They absolutely thought I was leaving. Oh, he's getting out, and I'm right here in 5 trees, and I'm in the wide open. Shit, I got to get back on the timber.
Yep.
I didn't really make a big deal of it publicly or anything, but once you know, you know.
And that's the best thing I can suggest, and this is for you too, is that it becomes part of your life, but it's not your life. That's how I look at it. I got a lot of other things I'm doing and I'm interested in, and I do my thing, but it's part of my life, but it's not an obsessive thing. It's there, there. If you want to interact, fine. If you don't, I'm not going home. I'm not losing any sleep over it. I don't need to pull out a book and start. I've learned everything. Here's the thing. Once you know that they could do this and you had the ability to communicate with them, a wood knock here and a wood knock there, and a tree getting pushed over doesn't mean anything anymore. I'm not excited about any of that stuff anymore.
No, me neither.
I'm good. But if you want to speak, you want to just tell me who you are, you want to introduce me or whatever, or if I'm out there, whatever, that's fine. And I go about my business. It just becomes like everyday life, but it's not everyday life, No. And you live in the thick of it. And it's just already integrated in how you behave. And it's a new normal. It's no big deal.
It's crazy. It's a wild ride, man. It is a freaking wild ride, right?
Yeah.
I'm not obsessed. What I'm obsessed with, I'm not obsessed with anything. I'm obsessed with hunting and fishing, but I can't stand that we're lied to and misled. I can't stand the dark side, and anything they don't want me to do, I'm trying to do it. And I want people to have the knowledge they want. Every human being deserves a fair crack at true knowledge, especially if it comes to potentially ruining their quality of life or passion for the outdoors, the real world. So that's my motivation. I don't need to prove shit. I don't need to get anything on video. You know what I mean? That's my motivation.
That's what I say too. It was one of the first things that I realized. Why are we being lied to? That's
right.
One of the things.
Slapped in the face. Everything's a bullshit story, you dirty bastards.
Yeah, that was my thing too. The first thing is, why are we being lied to? But then I kind of figured out for multiple reasons why. It's just, I mean, sad to say, the general public cannot deal with this. They just can't. Can you, as my buddy would say, can you imagine people living around these wild areas and they're married and they got kids? How they, I met a woman the other day that's upset that she's got rabbits in her yard. I'm serious. And she asked me, how do I get rid of them? I said, you got any plants? No. I said, they're eating the grass. Big deal. Oh, I don't want them in here. I don't want to be feeding them for free. They're rabbits.
Yeah. No, no, people are, yeah, that's a whole nother topic. We're on the same page about the main population.
Oh,
But anyways, we got to get out of here. I got to go eat before I fall over.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Thanks for giving me a platform. And thanks for, I just want everybody to know that this stuff is real, whether you believe me or not. I really don't care what you think of me. It's none of my business, but this stuff is real and you can live without losing your minds. It's just the way it is.
All right, man. All right. Well, let's stay in touch. Appreciate your time. Big time.
All right.
Appreciate you coming on here, man.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you later on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Later.
Bye.
Later, everybody. We're out of here. I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow without a doubt. And I'll review this live chat thing later on and see what kind of questions we got thrown down here. And we'll keep this knowledge train ripping. Right, you guys? And another thing, too. If you may have an inkling that I may have emailed you to get you on here with me, make sure you check your spam. Okay? Your spam. Apparently, a lot of Sarah's invites to all of you are going to spam, and they're not getting it until later on. All right? I don't know how many people are here right now who are going to watch this, but make sure you check your spam for your invite to come on here and speak with me, with everybody else here. Share knowledge with everybody here. All right, you guys? And I'll definitely be back tomorrow. I think she said I've got like a full week of frickin' guests coming on here lined up right now, which is great. So, but you can email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com. All right, like I had a super kind gentleman come up to me in the grocery store yesterday. He's like, "Hey, Steve, it's Steve Wright." Yeah, we talked before. I really got this. I got a experience I got to share with you. I'm like, "Okay, man." He's like, "How do I get a hold of you?" I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" sharemystory@howtohunt.com. I say it every day, you guys. All right. Hold on, I got another text from the big boss here. I better make sure it's not for you guys. Hold on a minute. A lot of people asking what the eagle feathers mean. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to figure that out as we go. I'll ask him. We can ask the Owl Man what he feels about that, or anybody else who might have that knowledge can chime in here anytime as well, all right? Or email me, okay? All right. I'm out of here. I'm starving. Gotta go. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for coming out, you guys. I hope this helps somebody.